Okay. I'm sure I'm butchering all these names. This is so terrible. I'll figure it out.
Hey friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Adanna, and on this channel we talk about all things stories and self-care. So books that we love, books that we want to read, authors that we love, and just general self-care. If you're interested in that sort of content, definitely subscribe down below and also hit the notification bell so that you're notified of every single time that I upload. Today I'm going to be reviewing a book that I recently read and I fell in love with. It is The Girl with the Lauding Voice by Abi Dare, and it's a book that I'm really excited to review because I have made a commitment to read more diverse books, not just in thought and in subject, but specifically books that are written by authors that are from Africa, whether it's West Africa, South Africa, East Africa, just all over Africa, and also the Caribbean. So this is the first book that I have made that intention and have actually read since making that intention, and I'm really excited to dive into it, and I'm happy that it was a book that I loved and I can recommend it to you. This book is about a young 14-year-old Nigerian woman, her name is Adanna, who is trapped in a life of servitude. Spoken through her own voice, Adanna shares her story of loss of her mom in her small village of Ikati, and she's forced to become the third wife of a man, honestly, that's old enough to be her father. And she's essentially sold as a domestic servant in the chaotic city of Lagos. Adanna is a bright and inquisitive young woman who wants to learn and to be educated. And one of the things that her mom stresses to her is the importance of an education. And that's what's going to be helpful for her to succeed in life. However, when her mom dies, her father has no way of paying rent. And so he decides to give her away in marriage to a successful taxi driver in order to collect a bride price. A sidebar. In Nigeria, the bride price is the price that a man pays to the family of the bride in order to kind of sort of offset the cost of no longer having that woman around to take care of her father's home. It is very antiquated, and it's a tradition that still lives on today, but it's more so for cultural reasons and not actually slavery like the name sort of implies. Adanna is obviously devastated at having to marry this man, but she finds eventually solace and friendship in the man's second wife, Khadija. However, while Khadija and Adanna are on a secret outing outside of the home, Khadija ends up suddenly passing away, and Adanna is so scared that she'll be blamed for killing Khadija. And so she decides to first go to her father, and her father's no help. So she decides to run away and finds her way to Lagos, where she is subject to more abuse from her new boss. However, now she has access to books and friends, and those friends help to conspire to help her find a way out. I love this cover. I think it is nice and bright. I think the aesthetic really just overall goes with the overall story. It is definitely a book about being loud. Lagos is a very chaotic, very out there, very almost like you have to speak up if you want to be heard type of city. And since the majority of the story is set in Lagos, I think it's appropriate that the book has that loud, bright reds, bright yellows color scheme. And I think it's incredibly beautiful. This is definitely the type of book that I would have on my bookshelf. I actually have a copy from my library, so I have the little sticker still on it, but it is such a beautiful, beautiful book cover. And I think it really does match the type of story that you're going to get. The Girl with the Lauding Voice, the book with the louding book cover. So my favorite character, probably hands down, it's hard not to like Adanna as your favorite character. She's really feisty and she's so determined to learn. And she's really incredibly innocent due to the way that Nigeria just is. A lot of time, women and children are typically not educated, especially out in the rural villages where, or areas that are further away from major cities. But I love her as a character because she finds joy and ways to find joy in most circumstances, even when things are really bad or really sad. That just endears you to her, and you just she's almost like your role model of, as bad as things may get, there's always joy in that situation. And so I think that is what makes her just my favorite character, even though she is the lead character. And I can see myself identifying with her. And on this channel, we talk a lot about how I, love to learn, love to understand things, the world around me. And so Adanna is truly like a girl after my own heart. My other favorite character, honestly, is a supporting character, Kofi. He is hilarious, and he provides, in some ways, a bit of comedic relief. I also love that he's like fiercely protective over Adanna, and he really does look out for her. He does it in a way, again, that it's a little bit comedic. So if you're talking, or if there's a subject that is a little bit more touchy, or it's a little bit more, it could be a sad situation, he looks out for her in a way that still makes that situation funny. I like how the author was able to kind of write Kofi as almost like I know that his character is not like this, but almost like the funny, like, best friend sort of situation, or sort of character in this plot. So it's a 5-star. I don't have anything else to say. It's 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. So some of the major key themes that were expressed through this book were the exposure or highlighting of how the lack of education to keep young women and children in submission. It really highlighted how Nigeria has held on to some, archaic traditions, such as marrying young girls or having multiple wives, or even seeing things like educating women as a waste, not providing adequate access to education as a whole. I think is a little bit broader because that gets into some of the religious reasons as well. But just in general, withdrawing or withholding education to women and seeing that as like a waste, or, you have to be rich or come from a wealthy family in order to put your young children in general, but especially young girls, into school. Unfortunately highlighted some of the, I guess we'll say, negative aspects of Nigeria as a country. I think that Nigeria has made some progress in ways, but also still has a long way to go. But it was a great book of just basically being able to see how young woman Adanna was able to persevere, and we don't necessarily know what happens next in her story. I don't know if the author is going to do maybe a sequel to this story or a second book, just to kind of tell us where Adanna ended up in life. But just, we were able to see this one story of how a young woman came from the village, came from, a very rural part of Nigeria, and was able to, by God's grace, by the universe, whatever you want to call it, able to get herself into a better position. So if it's just one woman or just one woman's story, that's one more woman that I'm just happy to see that was able to kind of have that story. So loved that, and loved that story of perseverance that ended up coming through. All right, and so that is it. That is my review of The Girl with a Louding Voice by Abi Dare. I want to 100% apologize if you are Nigerian, if you're Yoruba. Specifically, if I've butchered any pronunciations, please charge it to the lack of being able to speak it and not any malicious intent at all. But like I did say, terrible pronunciations aside, I really truly loved this book, and I'm glad that it was one of the first books that I've read since starting my challenge of trying to read more diverse books, more books by women authors, books by African women authors, and definitely books from my family's heritage and hometown. I hope that you enjoyed this review. I hope that it maybe swayed you one way or another if you were maybe potentially considering whether or not you should read this book. I will say that Adanna also does have this way of speaking, and it's almost like a broken English sort of thing. So if you are not familiar with Pidgin or broken English, you may struggle a little bit. However, with things like audiobooks, I'm sure that the audiobook may make it a little bit easier for you to follow along. It wasn't that hard for me, and as someone that does not really know how to speak Pidgin. And I was still able to follow along. But like I said, I hope that this book review has helped you with being able to, you know, decide to pick this up, and definitely give this book a try. I think it's well worth a shot. And that is it. So thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, definitely give me a thumbs up, and it helps with putting this channel in front of many other viewers like yourself. Also subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the like, or hit the notification bell if you haven't already, so you're notified of the next time that I upload. I'm going to continue to do reviews of books that fit this Nigerian, West African, African, Caribbean authors and subjects like that. So if you're wanting recommendations on books that are similar to this, definitely stay tuned, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for stopping by. Bye.